hate stems from something that happened to them in their past. So we gotta love everybody. My challenge to y'all is to refuse to be enemies.
Is that Brad Poles?
Do I hear Brad Poles?
Yes, sir. That's my name, yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Underwater FlyZone Podcast. My name is Macy Simpson, and I am your host for this week because obviously, if you guys saw in Foster's last vlog, he is out for surgery, but he is behind us recording, which is what I usually do, and he said that it's always, it's already so hard, so you're welcome for doing that. But yeah, Foster's out right now. I'm going to be your host, and I'm here with my best friend, Caitlin, since 4th grade. So is there anything that you want to say before we get started with our video to the viewers that might not know you?
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Macy's best friend. I play softball at SBU, so I'm going to be a senior there. And yeah, I'm a personal trainer. I'm going to start that after next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
That's your career.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I was gonna say, obviously, if you guys don't know me, I'm Macy. I'm Foster's girlfriend, and me and Caitlin have grown up with each other since elementary school. So what we're gonna be talking about today is kind of, we both know each other, obviously, but we don't really know each other's testimony, which I'll get in and explain what that is in a little bit. But we kind of have gone through different stages of life together, friendships, falling out, getting back together. So we'll have different friendship advices and stuff like that. But I want to kind of get into our testimonies. And if you guys don't know what a testimony is, Caitlin, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, I can explain it. So it's basically how your life was before Christ and before you started your relationship with God, and then how your relationship with God affected your life, how it is now, and how you kind of moved about your life and how your journey with God has changed your life pretty much.
And this is not going to be like your normal, I was raised as a Christian, baptized when I couldn't even remember when I was born, all that stuff. Because I can say that for us, both, we didn't grow up in, definitely, for me, religious backgrounds. I kind of found God myself. So it's definitely not going to be a traditional story that you would see in, other Christian faith. But, yeah, I guess.
It's crazy that we're best friends, and we have deep talks literally every day almost, every time we hang out, but we've never really talked about our testimonies.
We have fun a lot. We don't really take each other seriously that much.
But we talk about God pretty much
do.
every time we hang out, and we've never, gone over our testimonies with each other.
So
I know there's a lot of things I'm probably about to say that you don't even know.
I'm excited to get into it. But yeah, because we do talk about God, and you're probably my only friend, I feel like, that I talk to God with, which is good for our friendship and all that stuff. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. But do you want me to start my testimony?
Yeah, you
and
got
kind
it.
of how I've come to God first. So obviously I have a YouTube channel. I don't really post there that much anymore. But that's where I shared my testimony and how I found God. And like I said, I didn't grow up in the religious family. I've never gone to church with my family. I actually, when I was a senior, I think, or junior, I started going with my mom's best friend to church. And my parents aren't they're against church, not Christians, all that stuff. They are, but I think that they just don't actively follow it, go to church every single Sunday. They're just what they say, too busy and all that stuff. But I also try and make time to go to church and all that stuff. So I would say that in middle school, I had the worst anxiety. And I don't know if I told you about this.
I know a little bit about this.
Yeah, it was really bad where I couldn't even go to school. And I remember waking up my dad every single morning in 7th grade, I think, or 8th grade, and just telling him, crying and saying I can't go to school because I would have anxiety attacks. And that was so bad. My dad took me to therapy twice to kind of talk about my mental health and all that stuff. And I'm not going to lie, that made it worse because I was like, is there something wrong with me? And I did not like the feeling of that. It's so crazy. If you've ever had an anxiety attack or anxiety, it's you can be with a room full of people, laughing, all that stuff, but you just feel so out of your head and all that stuff, and you just feel so scared and have to leave now because you need that sense of security. So that was middle school. And then high school rolled around. Freshman year, I think, is when I found God. I don't know exactly how I do remember I went to Worlds of Fun for like Halloween, and it was like so bad. That was my worst anxiety attack like of my life, because it was like during Halloween, so there's a lot of flashing lights and all that stuff, and I started panicking, and I was with like friends, and I think I got out of it in like 5 minutes, but like that felt like forever. But it was so bad, and then I remember going home crying, and my whole body was just so out of it and exhausted just from all of the stuff happening within. And that's when I started crying, praying to God, and I was like, who is, like, I don't know how I came to God. It literally was like, just like I knew God instantly, and nobody taught me that. I just came to God knowing not everything, but knowing like that there is a God out there. So I just prayed, and sophomore year was when I really started my relationship with Christ, you know? So that's what happened. I wouldn't say that boys or anything affected that. I know that when I met Foster, I really kind of grew in all that stuff, but I am glad to say that I grew by myself with my faith and all that stuff. And I remember junior year of high school in May finals week is when I got in a wreck, you know, with the bus.
Yeah.
And that was horrible. So a bus hit my car on school road, and that affected me a lot because I got like whiplash and all that stuff. My car turned on two wheels and totaled it. So then that was my junior year of high school. Also, like a week after that, when I got recovered a little bit, I had the worst. I had a nose infection, it was like kind of first world problems, but I got so sick that felt like I was about to die. And that was during 4th of July, and it just felt like so much stuff kept piling together. And I remember I told my dad, I was like, why, if God is so good, would he let me feel like so miserable and kind of not just give me a break? And then my dad, which I've always remembered this, he said, well, God obviously knows how good you are and that stuff, and he will make sure to recover and get you better. And just knowing that my dad like said that to me, like when I was feeling so bad, he gave me that faith, you know, of God when I needed it, kind of helped make me know, like, my dad obviously loves Jesus and all that stuff, knows God, but it reaffirmed me whenever I was struggling in my faith. So definitely anxiety is what really drew me to God, because I knew that I would not be who I am today. And this is not like an in-depth version of my testimony. It's just like kind of the broad picture of it. But I just know that there is a lot of stuff in my testimony that only God knows. But I just feel like when the time is right, I can tell everything, you know, but I just know that God has helped me so much in all of that, and like relationships with friends, with boys, with myself, and every day it's just growing closer and closer to him. College was a lot too. In college, there's a lot of temptations. It's so hard to like, especially when you go to a party school, it's hard to be finding like close Christian friends. But fortunately, I've had like in my sorority like Bible studies and all that stuff, which grew me closer to girls. But yeah, there wasn't like anything too traumatic really that was like, oh my gosh, like Jesus, you know, like I didn't have a near death or anything.
So when you were in college, how was your relationship with God? Because you obviously, I know you were a very strong Christian when you went into college, and you're almost done now.
I know.
You're pretty much done. So how was your relationship affected when you went to college?
Yeah, I will say that I'm glad that we're out of college. Like, I'll be student teaching my senior year back at home, because even though my faith was so strong, you know, in college, and I love to help people, people really took a toll on me when I was like, just like, you know, being like, well, it's okay if I hang out with them, or it's okay if I see this or that and all that stuff. And just like going to parties and knowing what they do is not like right, like drugs and like drunk and all
doing
that
stuff that doesn't align with your
it just and like listening to that kind of music that's like rap music, and it's like I can't like fake. I want to be like Jesus in that scene and all that stuff and help them, but I can't. I'm only human. I can't let them like affect my life, you know.
That is something about Macy, is she always tries to literally help everybody.
I know.
And so I feel like you pour into other people way more than some people pour into you.
Yeah, which is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It's like so draining at times, but then it's like I would rather be that person, you know? I would rather feel empty so that someone else would feel good.
Yeah, but you have to find people that fill up your cup
too, and recharge. But I would say that's like in a broad way my kind of testimony. So I mean, do you have any more questions about like kind of seeing if I could get a little deeper? Because I don't know exactly.
A lot of people I feel like nowadays deal with anxiety. So
yeah,
when you were going through your anxiety attacks, how did you get through them?
Yeah, well, I'm actually sweating right now thinking about the past. But so how I got through it was, that's a good question actually, because so many people actually are dealing with anxiety right now, and it's so easy to say like God saved me and all that stuff, but you need to put in the work as well. You know, you need to fuel your body, pour into yourself, put stuff in your body that's healthy. Exercise helped a lot. I used to exercise so much, and I still do, but more environmental. It's like walking with my friends and all that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I like to eat healthy. I've always loved to eat healthy. And also a big thing that I did was in your mind. It's just how you put your mind. Where you put your mind is where your actions and everything else will follow. So I told myself one day, I was like, I'm just gonna not care anymore. And I'm not kidding. Like when I said that, I was like let free from the chains that I believe like demons held captive of me, honestly. And because God said in the Bible that the enemy will only have a hold of what you give to him. So when I like don't even give him that power and let go of everything, that's when my life really started to change, and I took it upon myself. So yeah, I would say that me taking initiative and an action was what really helped take the anxiety just to little to none, honestly. Like it was so bad every single day. Now if I feel a little anxious or flustered, I would just say I don't care, because I know what's on the other side of earth. You know, God says not to focus what is seen, but on what is unseen, because what is seen is temporary and what is unseen will last forever.
Yeah, well, and he says to cast all your anxieties onto him.
Yeah, because he cares for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's a big thing that people do go through. So that's just what my advice would be. Everyone takes it differently. Everyone has different like anxieties and triggers, you know? So just talk to God and just be like, take care of yourself, I would say is the big thing you can do, you know? Mm-hmm. But did you want to go into your testimony right now?
Okay, I'll share mine.
Okay, so, I'm excited because I haven't heard this yet.
Yeah, me and Macy have a very similar upbringing where I didn't really grow up going to church every weekend. My family, I love my family. They're the biggest blessing in my life, but we never really made church a priority, and I think that's because we made sports a priority in our lives. I think growing up, I really only went to church like on holidays and stuff, and I spent a lot of my weekends playing softball. I started playing softball when I was like 5 years old, and I've been playing ever since. I still play now, and growing up playing softball my entire life, I think I became known as Caitlin, the softball player, and I kind of just put that as my identity. Mm-hmm. And so my entire childhood growing up everyone was always like, nobody ever tried to get to know me, I feel like. And it was always asking me how softball was going. Yeah. Which Macy and I, shout out, did play on the same softball team for a little bit.
And then I quit to do dance.
Yeah.
And then I came back.
I would say my testimony really starts my senior year of high school. That's when I decided I believed in God. And there wasn't really I think everyone's senior year of high school is a stressful time in their lives because you're deciding where you're going to spend the next 4 years of your life. And for me, I wanted to play softball, so I was deciding where I was going to play softball at. And I think a lot of the stress, I started getting anxiety, which I had never gotten in my life before, and that was really scary. So I know my senior year, I really don't know, besides being stressed and stuff, I don't really know what got me to come to God, but I just asked my mom one day, and I was like, can we please start going to church? So my mom and I, my senior year, started going to church together, just us. We would go whenever we could. I was still playing softball at the time, so it was really only whenever we could, which was more than I was before. And yeah, but I think my problem then was I was only being a Christian on Sundays, And, like, I was only living the Christian lifestyle on Sundays, and the rest of the week I was just kind of living for the world and, like, for others. And my biggest flaw, I think, is I live for the approval of others before I met God. And so I think that was a big part for me. I would say for probably after my senior year, 2.5 years, I was just like a lukewarm Christian. Like, I wasn't really going anywhere with my relationship with God. I knew that I loved God and I knew that I believed in him, but I don't think, like, I knew how much God loved me. And I think that, like, is what made, like, it so hard for me to build a relationship with God, is, like, our God loves so much, and our God is, like, the perfect love. And I don't think we know, like, how to comprehend that sometimes. So that, like, took me the longest time to understand. And so I would say for 2.5 years, I was just kind of going about, like, saying I was a believer in God, but I just wasn't really, like, acting on it. And so I decided to play softball at SBU, where I'm at now, and it's a Christian school, obviously, Baptist. I wasn't really excited about that at the time, but I knew that it was going to help me with my walk with Christ. But yeah, when I got to college, I struggled with the same thing you did, like, going and doing stuff that I knew I shouldn't. But, like, I thought maybe I could make a difference, or I could be, like, the one Christian somebody saw today for the day or whatever. But I just wasn't really living like I knew I was supposed to. So up until up until middle of my sophomore year, I would say that's when my walk with God actually changed. I think that's when I saw the world in a different perspective, and I think obviously it's because, when was it? On December 18th is when we lost Coach Way.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, when I got the text that we had lost Coach Way, which was our softball coach at our high school and a teacher at our high school, she was a really big mentor for me, so that was a really tough loss for me. And then, like, unfortunately, sorry, this is hard. Are you going to be able to cut this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to restart that.
All right, you're good.
Okay.
Just go where you're at.
Okay.
Yeah, you're killing it, bro.
Okay, so on December 18th, I got a text that that Coach Way passed away, she was a softball coach at Ray Peck, and she was a teacher there. And she was a really big mentor in my life for my senior year, and we even kept in touch after high school. But unfortunately, I lost Coach Way, and I found out that she passed away when I was in the parking lot of a hospital for my grandpa.
Oh.
And then so the next day, on December 19th, my grandpa passed away. So that was the first time in my life that I think I had ever felt loss or grief before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, like, the first hardship I had ever gone through in my life. So I had no clue how to handle it. And I think that's when I, like, just, like, I was like, God, I need you. Like, I have no clue how I'm supposed to get through this by myself. Like, there's no way. And so I think that's when my relationship with God really started as I bought a Bible. I started reading it every day. I started praying to God every day. And, like, I think a problem that a lot of people have when they lose somebody is that the first question you ask is, like, ask God why. Like, why would you do such a bad thing to my family? Why would you let bad things happen to me or my family or my loved ones? And I think a lot of people, they don't understand that. They think God is absent whenever bad things happen in life, and that's, like, the furthest from the truth. I think God is the closest to you whenever bad things happen. He's closer to you than ever whenever you go through hardships in life. And because when you feel sad, and when you cry, Jesus cries. When you're sad, Jesus is sad. Like, he feels with you. And whenever you go through something, you're never going through it alone. And he's the only thing that can turn evil into good. Like, he's the only thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing else on this world that can turn evil into good, and I think that's like the best thing about God. And I know, like, for a fact, he carried me through that loss, like that grief. I could not have gone through it by myself. And so after that, that's like when my relationship with God really started, and I started hearing God speak to me. I remember like the first time I heard God speak to me was I was in the car one day after this happened, and it was probably like 4 months after I lost my grandpa and Coach Way. And I was just in the car, and I turned off my music, and I was like, God, please speak to me. Like, I just have never heard your voice before. Like, I don't even understand how to hear your voice. And for the first time, I actually heard God, like, say a verse to me, and it was, hold on, let me make sure it's right. It was Matthew 11:28 through 30, when he says, come to me. Hold on,
Is it all who are weary?
Yeah.
And
my yoke is easy, but my burden is light. Hold on,
I think so.
Let me pull it up.
And I'll give you rest. Is that which one it
Yeah.
was? And that's when you were having a hard time with the losses in your life?
Yeah, I was just having a hard time, like really committing to God, because, like I said, I was frustrated with like what he was doing in my life and how he could put my family through so much pain.
Yeah, I did not hear any
Okay.
of this.
Sorry, you're probably gonna have to cut this part, but okay. So I was in the car one day, and I was like talking. I turned off my music, and I was like, God, like, please talk to me. Like, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. I was obviously still frustrated with him and what I thought he had just put my family through. And I was like, please talk to me. Like, I need something. I don't know what to do, like where to go for my next step. Like, how do I get better? And he spoke to me, and he was telling me Matthew 11:28 through 30. And it says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So this was basically, like, I went home and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to, like, see what this verse is all about, like, what it really means. And basically, it was just telling me, like, you need to come to me, and I will, like, he's not saying that his yoke is easy, but that, like, the walk with Christ is not easy in itself, but it's better than any life that you could live without God.
It's so worth it.
And when he says that his burden is light, like, he takes your burdens from you, and he tells you to give him your worries, cast all your anxieties onto him. And he tells you to give him all his burdens, and he carries them for you. That's why he carries you through your storms. Like, anytime you go through a hardship, he carries you through that most of the time, and we don't even know.
Yeah.
He does so many things behind the scenes that we don't even know about. So that was the first time that I ever felt God speak to me. And then after that, I realized, like, I started trying to figure out, like, how I could speak to God more. And I think a lot of people don't understand how to speak to God and, like, how he speaks to us.
Yeah. Like, that is actually
because
a podcast in itself.
It is, because it's not like you're not going to hear a voice, really.
Like this. Like, I'm not going to hear God's not going to
A lot of people are realists, and they can't get over that.
Yeah,
like,
that is true.
But you can hear God just by knowing his word, I think. Like, once you start reading the Bible and you start understanding what the word says, like, that's God's truth. That's his, like, that book is so sacred. Like, that's his word, and that's him speaking to you. When you know his word, that's when his word starts popping into your head when you're thinking, that's him. Yeah. He is your thoughts whenever you're, like, going through something. And like, whenever I have something pop into my head, I'm like, that was God.
Yeah. It's not like a coincidence or anything.
No. A lot of the times we always think things are coincidences, and they're not.
Yeah. How you can kind of put your pride before him, you know, and saying, oh, it's just, it's not God, because God couldn't do that, you know, saying that you're greater than him, pretty much. Yeah.
And then, so after that happened, and I started listening to God more and him speaking to me, I started to realize that my identity was not in who I was, like, and what everyone else said about me. My identity was not Caitlin, the softball player. It wasn't what other people were talking about me. It was who God says I am. And God says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. God made us and said that we were good. So I finally started to realize that I needed to not put my identity in my sports performance at all. And so I feel like the last year, last 6 months, God has really been testing me with that. And I've taken, like, the last year, I feel like has been the most challenging but like rewarding year of my life, because like he just continues to test me, and I feel like all I do is grow closer to him. Because I feel like every time you go through a hardship, like all you do is grow as a person.
Yeah.
Afterwards, like you always like grow after something happens in your life, and it's so beautiful. And so the last year he's tested me, and like even with another loss, in October I lost my aunt in a car crash. That night that I went to Northwest.
What?
I didn't even know. I went to visit Macy and Foster at Northwest. And when I came home to visit my mom the next day, I stopped by the house and she was like, I need to tell you something. And they didn't even tell me the night that it happened. It happened on Friday night when I was with you guys. But so I lost my aunt in a car crash in October. And after that, I was like, oh gosh, here it goes again. Like, I can either like sit in this grief for months like I did the first time, or I can like go about the rest of my life and like figure out how I can make the best of it and turn this into good. Even though it's a terrible situation, there's always like a blessing that's going to come out of it in the end. And there was, like, my family has gotten the closest that we've ever been in our lives. And I've seen so much positive come out of it, and I've grown as a person. Like, I cannot imagine where I would be without the things that I've gone through.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that. Did
I
you
know.
not tell me after?
I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah,
I just kind of like dealt with it with my family. I think it was just kind of like, I don't know, it was weird.
Something that you had to do by yourself.
It was just weird. I felt like I kind of just went in a hole and started like working on myself and healing with my family. Because my family's been going through it. Like, we've had a rough year, a really rough year. We've dealt with 2 different losses in the family. We've dealt with people going to rehab for drugs. We've dealt with injuries, all this stuff. I think another test that God gave me was during my last softball season, this last semester at school. I got COVID my first 2 weeks of the season, so I was out the first like 10 games. And I was like, oh gosh, like, here it is. Like, I'm about to be tested real quick. If I shut down and I like am like not myself and I lose who I am as a person because I'm not playing softball, like, I need to like really show like who I am, like in God, like in who God says I am. I'm not Caitlin, the softball player anymore. Like, I'm a child of God now. Like, I am not falling back into this place.
Yeah.
And so I picked myself up real quick and realized that I have a higher purpose than who I am as a softball player. And this season actually is when I got baptized. Yeah. And I got, I think I got 7 other girls on the team to get baptized as well.
A lot.
And when I did that, I feel like that's when I found my purpose, like, not as a softball player. Like, yes, I found a community with my softball friends, and that's my family. But I found my worth in who I was as a person and who God says I am. And my purpose is not to be the best softball player I can be. My purpose is to bring as many people as I can to heaven.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was just, So.
Because I was going to say, God can literally use you exactly where you're at. So you playing softball, like, people could say like, oh, it's just Caitlin, the softball player, but you to God like are a vessel, and you brought those 7 other softball players to come to Christ. So it just shows that God can use you exactly where you're at, not when you're, oh, I'm at my best version of myself, because God, I mean, if you've read the Bible, you've seen prostitutes, you've seen people that have murdered, people that have just done the worst that of mankind turn to Jesus. Those are the ones that God has really used the most in life, in history. So, yeah, that's crazy, though. Do you believe that going to SBU was the right calling for you and where God has placed you in that reason for, like, a purpose?
Yeah, I definitely think whenever I was a senior in high school and I was choosing SBU, for some reason, I visited a few places and I wasn't, like, in love with SBU, but I felt a tug on my heart that I needed to
Really?
go there. I did. And this was before I even really had a relationship with God, but something just felt like I'm going to be at this school. Like, this is where
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be. And I went there, and I went with my gut, and I feel like my freshman and sophomore year, I definitely, the whole time I was there, I was like, this is not, why did I choose this
I remember
place?
you telling me. Yeah.
Macy was the one I always went to about it. I was like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Because I just
I
was
almost went
not,
there.
yeah, I was just not happy. I felt like it was at a point when I was putting my identity in softball. I would just like, we weren't doing the best,
You
like
did a lot.
performance wise. And I just was like, I don't want to be on a team that's just losing all the time. And I don't want to be at a school where I'm not happy. And so I told my mom, I was like, my junior year, like, I'm done. I'm going to the transfer portal. And I told you that. And you were like the only two people I talked to about it, really. And when I started my junior year at SBU, I came into that year and I was like, I'm like, that semester, I'm transferring before the next season. Like, I'm not doing it anymore. I was just so unhappy. I was crying every night and I was praying to God. I was like, this cannot be the place for me. Like, you have to have a better place for me. And when I was praying to God every night for the first like month of school. And he was like, no, you are not transferring. Like, this is your place. And I was like, it was like we were battling, like we were going back and forth. And I was like, no, God, like, trust me, I will find my purpose at another school.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't here. And he shut all the doors for me. He did not let me leave. And starting at my junior year, we got a new softball coach. And the day I met my softball coach, I walked into this meeting and I was like, I could care less who this guy is. No, I no care. I'm entering that portal as soon as the semester's over. And when this dude walked in the room, for some reason I felt this like sense of peace just fill my body. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm staying here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm supposed to be here. And so that was like the coolest feeling ever. And then I had the best year this year that I've ever had. Like, everything just like fell into place. I found my purpose. I found who I was as a person and who God says I am, and not in my sport. And that's something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. That's something that I'm very grateful that I got to learn at this young of an age, because I feel like a lot of people don't ever learn that. Like, they don't ever get that through their head, that your identity is not found in others.
Yeah.
And I found my purpose. Like, I changed my life, and I've impacted other people's lives while I've been here, and I still have another year to go. So I feel like I definitely was called to this school, and I feel like I'm very grateful that I stayed.
Yeah, and that just shows like you at your worst crying, and it just shows that when you feel like you're at your deepest and your most broken and darkest. Foster always says this: be happy, because that means you're just going straight up. Which is so true.
Blessing is about to come.
Yeah, it's always your hardest moments when you just want to give up, is when God really takes initiative, and He just it's kind of like He tests your faith, and when He knows how much you can take. So if you think, I can't take anymore, I can't take, God knows exactly how much you can take, and then God will give you the blessings and kind of the reassurance, the motivation when you most need it. But yeah, so obviously we kind of came up from the same background of not really having that religious upbringing. So I wanted to ask you, and I'll talk about this with myself too, how has your family's like beliefs and unbeliefs shaped your outlook on who God is truly,
Yeah, I would say that growing up in a family that never really took religion very seriously, first of all, I would never change my upbringing for the world, because it's made me who I am today. But it definitely had its moments when I was younger, because I have two brothers, and both of them, not to call them out or anything, but I'm sure they wouldn't really fight me on this, but they're both pretty atheist, I would say. And so just going back and forth our whole lives, just butting heads on that, has really been a struggle with our family, like our connection. I feel like we could obviously have a better connection, but I feel like it's only made me stronger as a Christian, because I have to fight for Jesus so much more.
Yeah.
And the more I tell them about Him, the more I love Him.
Yeah.
So
That's you.
Yeah. And I feel like even though like my parents aren't the biggest like role models per se when it comes to my mom is like, don't get me wrong, my mom is my role model and I look up to her more than anybody in this world. But they don't do the things that
But we're not perfect.
yeah,
Everyone has their
they're
own
busy
flaws.
people and
Yeah.
like not everybody thinks that going to church is a priority in their
Yeah.
life. And me being a newer Christian, I think that church is the biggest priority in my life because I'm in a vulnerable place in my life
Yeah.
where my life is
Being the next
constantly
generation.
changing.
Uh-huh.
I need to have that, like, I need my cup to be filled every Sunday,
Yeah.
every Tuesday. Like, I need to be going. And I think it's kind of cool that I get to be kind of like a role model for my family.
Yeah.
Because,
And that light for them.
yeah, because they see me going to church and I can't go to church alone. So somebody's got to come with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I get to be their role model for once.
That is true. That's good.
It's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. Well, and so I obviously came up similar. I am so like, and I would not change it for the world. I'm so glad the way that I was brought up. I love my family so much. They're such good people. It's just everyone's different. They just don't put church at the priority. They put like, I would say God second, and we put God first and all that stuff. But I love the way that I grew up because it has really shaped me. And my grandma, from my mom's side, my mom grew up in Thailand or was born in Thailand. She was Buddhist. So I've seen Buddhism, atheists, Christians. I've seen a bunch of different religions. And I'm so glad not to have been brought up by just one, by just Christianity, that traditional. And that's awesome. I want to raise my kids to be Christians and stuff. But I really am so glad that I wasn't because I got to see the life without God, and I got to see how much I needed Christ. And I also, especially in college, there was just a bunch of people that weren't, totally into Jesus and all that stuff. And I just think going through it myself has helped me to give people so much more grace, and not be like, there's so many Christians out there that are honestly the most judgmental people ever.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm so glad not to be that person.
I know.
Because
That's one of the things I hate most about like
what people say,
what
because
people say about Christians is
Yeah.
they're so judgmental, but that's not
not the right way
That's not
to live.
how
God wants you to,
not at all.
Yeah.
That frustrates me so much. But our God has so much grace and mercy for other
For
people
them.
that
Yeah.
all I want to do is show others grace and mercy and
Yeah.
show others how Jesus loves them.
And I feel like if we were to be brought up in that traditional, just like not sheltered, but in our little Christian bubble, like not really had anything going wrong in life, we would have been so picky and judgmental towards people that might have, gotten drunk or like were on drugs or going actually through life without God, So I'm just grateful that we are, and I know that God really takes people that are not from Christian backgrounds and all that stuff to honestly make the biggest change in life to people, because I feel like if I know that you were like growing up as a Christian, your whole family is Christian, all that stuff, and I was like going through it or just didn't believe in all that stuff, I wouldn't go to you to talk about my problems and all that stuff, because I just feel like you'd be like, okay, well, you need, or like try and put Jesus down my throat. So I, especially with my brothers, I know how to talk about God to people, and what's too much, what's pushing, what not to do and say, and how to bring God up and just regular conversation.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a sensitive topic nowadays. It's hard not to feel like as a Christian, you're supposed to boast about the Lord and like tell everybody about the love of Jesus, but a lot of people take it as you shoving it down their throats.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Everyone's
it's difficult.
different.
It's a difficult situation.
Well, and God uses if people are feisty, people are sensitive, people are quiet, reserved, outgoing, God used all of our like strengths and good for the better. So I think like it's me being the person that likes to help people, likes to give to people, and I guess not lose myself, but I always put myself in other people's shoes. God helps me to use that to really understand people, even those that I might not, other people might be like, what? I don't understand them. God really gave me that goodness of I understand them. Even though I'm not going
Yeah.
through that, God really shows me how I can put myself in those shoes. And I think that's why I'm really good at listening to people. It's because I feel like I'm the one living through it whenever they talk to me, and I know what to say,
Yeah.
But
You can see both sides of things.
yeah, I can,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Yeah, you said that really well. I have a question for you. When did you think that you started, like, how do I say this? When did you think that you started to, like, show externally that you were walking with the Lord?
Mhm.
Like, when do you think other people could see that you were a
Oh, I
follower
know
of
it.
Christ?
Yeah. Okay. So, we went to parties in high school, up to senior year, but junior year, I remember I can't remember if I was in my faith and all. I obviously was, but I still drank a little bit, and was kind of just like acting like the party and all that stuff. But I remember senior year of high school was when I was like, like I would go to the parties literally just to hang out with you guys, but everyone knew, do not try and give me drink because I won't drink it. I will make sure I will drive you guys, I will take care, I will talk to you guys, and I wanted to be friends and hang out for our senior year. But I think that's when everyone was like, oh yeah, she's a Christian, don't give her a drink, or like,
Yeah.
she's not gonna do that. So I think when I just said no to the world and became kind of an outsider, I didn't want to fit in anymore. It wasn't fun. It didn't give me any kind of like eternal satisfaction. It was all temporary. So I would say that my senior year of high school is really when that happened. But would you say senior year of college, or what do you think?
I would say probably like a year ago,
Yeah.
around summertime last year, is when I really thought I started walking with God and changing
Mm-hmm.
my ways. Yes, I still give in to temptations every day, and I sin on probably every day.
Well,
But
we all.
everyone does, and it's a sinful world,
Yeah.
and that's why Jesus died on the cross for us. So
Yeah. So that's
I don't
awesome.
know. I think I started probably a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
which is so crazy to me because I started believing in God probably like 5 years ago, and
Yeah.
I'm just now figuring out how to show others.
How to walk this life.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster with
It really
our
is.
faith.
Like, if you are trying to become a believer and follow God, like, trust me, it is a roller coaster.
You don't think it's going to be steady.
It's never
Up,
going to be
up.
steady.
Yeah, it's not. It's just like life. Life's never going to be like,
Yeah.
life has its curveballs, friendships, relationships. We're all imperfect people. So that's,
Yeah. And that's why I always say, like, hardships are always the biggest blessings
because
in
when you
disguise.
go down, you got to go up.
Because when you go down, you have the biggest up after that, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's true. And also I was going to say, so let's see. In high school, we hung out with what you would say the popular kids.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about how do you kind of steer away from the temptations of, I would say, when people hang out with like the popular crowd or the cool kids, it's because they're like partying, doing all this crazy stuff. So how do you keep your faith like at the center, and how did you in high school? And I can talk about, I kind of did, but kind of following that crowd, with
Well,
the
I
temptations.
think for me in high school, I was more of like a floater.
Mhm.
I talked to everybody that I felt like a good energy from, and I made a lot of friends from different groups, and I kind of just tested out the waters and saw who I connected with more. I really didn't hang out like
You actually did have a bunch of groups.
I really didn't hang out with our friend group until like the end of senior year probably.
Yeah.
But it's a really hard line you have to walk, because I feel like sometimes I just want to, like, I love these people for who they are, but you have to kind of, as a Christian, understand your environment
In the community.
and realize that you turn into your environment.
Yeah.
And just like you're walking a very fine line with who you're hanging out with.
Mhm.
And just understanding that is like the biggest thing for me. I still struggle with it every day. I know I have friends that I should probably distance myself from, but it's hard. Like, friendships are hard.
It's so, yeah.
Because
Well,
I don't even know, really, Macy.
I was going to say, being like, a Christian and like all that stuff, I don't like when there are people out there that will intentionally not like talk to people because of their wrongs, because they sin and all that stuff. And I want to be that light in the darkness, just like
Yes.
Jesus
Okay.
was.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't ever want to steer away from somebody because they don't believe in God or because they have made bad decisions in their life, because nobody's perfect. And if I'm the one person that someone's going to see if I'm the one person that someone's going to be able to see God or like know God through, then why would I shelter myself into a box
and turn them away
with a bunch of Christians that already know God?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be someone that loves everybody that they come encounter with. Like, if I'm loving everybody, then that shows the love that God gives, which God's love is perfect, and we should all strive to love like Jesus.
Yeah, and Jesus said, go out into the world. Where Jesus went. He went to
and like
strippers.
make disciples and
He
like
went
the goal is
everywhere.
to get as many people to heaven as possible.
Yeah, so
and we can't do that if we're just sitting in this box with people that already know the Lord.
Yeah, with your little circle. But I will say that you need to have your Christian, like your community. You need to know like the friends that you will help build you up and fill your cup. But you also need to hang out with the people. Do not let them influence you. God knows you got to influence them.
I feel like you can start hanging out with them when you are confident and secure in your relationship with God, that you can say no to things.
Yeah.
And you can say no to things that don't align with your values.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, for sure. So I just want to touch base on that because I know, like, in friendships, we're talking about friendship and all that stuff, and you're definitely one, of very few people right now. We're still young. We haven't met probably even half of our best friends yet, of, like, the best friends of my Christian, friend group. But, and then, okay, do you have a question for me, or do you want me to ask a question? I didn't know if you were thinking of one.
Do you want to go into the whole healthy friendships?
Healthy friendships?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you, like, healthy boundaries in friendships?
We just talk about, like, how...
I guess our friendship.
Yeah, we can kind of talk about our friendship and how to have a healthy friendship and how to keep healthy friendships and have healthy boundaries.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And just, like, making friends and... Yeah, I guess we were to kind of touch base on who you should be friends with.
Yeah, well, friendships, relationships, our relationship with God and all that stuff, it all takes commitment and work. And obviously when I started dating Foster, I kind of was in that, not honeymoon phase, so I was like, I want to just hang out with Foster a lot and all that stuff. And I was like, I need to stop because I just remember I just kind of lost that friendship aspect, with a lot of you guys.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Macy went ghost for a while.
I will admit,
Not bad.
we're all imperfect. But yeah, obviously I'm glad that, that life, it's a roller coaster. So we have our times. But so yeah, I would say friendships, a commitment. Me and you especially, you have a good friend when we don't have to talk every single day, but when we hang out, it's like we never left,
I don't think we've ever really, like, gone through, like, we've never really...
Where we hated each other.
Yeah, we've never gone through, like, a falling
fight.
out. Yeah. Too, which is, like, very rare nowadays.
Especially we met in 4th grade.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes Macy and I, like... what
know
makes our
we're gonna
friendship
be.
so strong is, like, we do keep Christ at the center of our relationship.
That is true.
And our friendship, and it's just...
Somehow always comes up.
Yeah, we always have the deepest talks and the best talks. And we know when we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. And we call each other out on it. So we hold each other accountable.
Yeah, that's great friendship.
Yeah, I don't know, you're, like, one of the only friends that I have this friendship with that I know, like, you'll always hold me accountable for my actions, and you'll always, like...
And you always tell me you're being annoying.
Yeah, like, we're just very honest with each other, but we're also very loyal with each other.
And it's not fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we know that when we hang out with other people, it's not going to be, like, drama or two-faced,
we've never really had drama with each other, and I think that's
never.
just, like... It almost feels like a relationship in a way. Like, I'm like, me and Macy are, like, secure in our relationship.
We're secure in our relationship. We don't cheat on each other.
Yeah, we, like, I have trust that, like, she's never going to go behind my back and, like, talk bad about me. And I think that it stems back to like we keep God at the center.
Yeah, and it's so healthy that it's like I've never not talked to you for months, because we don't go to the same college. We didn't see each other for months. Hung out with you probably spring break or Christmas break or summer even months after, and it was like, hey, Kaylin, like it was so
It's
normal.
the same, yeah.
Yeah, it was not awkward. It did not feel like a falling out at all. So, and honestly,
I mean, and I'll say like sometimes we go a little too long without talking to each other, and it can be like, I'm like, oh shoot, I need to check up on
we
my
need to catch
friends
up.
more.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, but other than that, I mean,
yeah, I would say,
I feel like that's how you want a friendship to be.
yeah, very
Everybody
like
take
healthy.
notes.
And I don't know. I just think having healthy boundaries, just like in a relationship, expect your friends to be the exact same in your relationship with God. God's always going to be there. You need to also stay committed. And I needed, that's when I started dating Foster, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to call up my friends again. I need to text them. I need to hang out with them. I need to build our friendship too, And we sometimes go on walks together and work out,
I like how, like, I like making friends that I know have the same interests as I do, and they have the same passions in life that I do. And I love people. This is for
we really
friendships and relationships. I love people that are just driven in life, and they have like goals and like
goals.
They have like passions in life. Like, I think that's the best thing about a person. And I feel like I surround myself with people that have like a drive and like they want to be the best person they can be.
You attract what you are.
And and they make me better people. Like hanging out with you and Ellie, and like that's our group right now.
That's our
and
girls.
Yeah. Shout out Ellie.
She needs to be on one of a pod if she's watching.
Don't call her out like that.
She is. She's watching.
Okay.
I'll tell her to.
Yeah, shout out Ellie. But I feel like, I don't know, you guys like make me like try to be a better person.
And I know we'll be friends forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good kind of friendship when it's not wishy-washy.
Yeah, what do you think are healthy boundaries for friendships?
Okay, so obviously having communication, talking with each other doesn't mean every single day. Like we didn't talk to each other every single day. Just like relationships, you wouldn't want to marry somebody that you're not equally yoked with, which means, because Foster says you gotta kind of not talk like that, which means people that you might not be having similar interests with. Yeah. So having somebody that, is a child of God, somebody that is motivated, similar interests. We like to work out the same, and
being equally yoked also means like you're at the same like point in your life, like maturity wise too. Like you have to be like at the same level, like in all aspects. Yeah. Like you don't want to be friends with somebody that's immature when you're like very emotionally mature for your age.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you don't want to be hanging
hard.
out with somebody that's like...
That just wouldn't catch my eye either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be friends with someone like that.
Yeah, being equally yoked is like on every level you guys are walking the same path almost.
And that's not to say that I feel like you're my closest friend. Well, one of them, obviously. But it's like I would say that you are like my sister as a friend because we easily get on each other's nerves. But we have never gotten in a huge fight.
Yeah,
it's just weird. It's like my brothers. Little bickering all stuff. You get annoyed with me and I get sensitive. But it's nothing out of the norm, So I would say that's awesome. And Caitlin also doesn't ever... feel like a third wheel when she hangs out with me and Foster. So
I'm the best third wheel there is.
But yeah, so that's the true friendship test is if they can handle you and your boyfriend, But what do you think, Foster? This camera's about to die. It's on. This is too. What do you think we should wrap it up a little bit?
Do what you want. I got no battery.
We're at 54 minutes. What do you want to do, Caitlin? Do you think there's more to talk about?
I don't really know. Did we hit on friendships enough, or is that just like a weird ending?
We've kind of talked about everything.
Hey, just come back on episode 5.
Yeah, we can talk more.
Okay.
We'll do a part 2. Hey, this is Who Run the World. Remember when you said that? Girls. We have girl power.
Who runs the world?
This is a girls podcast episode. So maybe next time, if you guys like and subscribe, we will do a part 2. But is there
Foster's officially kicked off.
Yeah.
The girls are running the show.
We are. Is there anything that you want to do, like last minute advice or closing comments or anything?
No. I mean, Jesus loves you.
Yeah, that's a
about it.
good ending. But thank you so much, Caitlin, for being on.
Of
It's almost like,
course.
what time is it?
I love you guys.
9 p.m. We love you too, Caitlin. And also,
shout out Underwater FlyZone.
Yeah, shout out
Best
Caitlin.
podcast.
We'll put her stuff, her fitness Instagram in
Oh,
the
chill.
description. Also, I'll put my...
Did it die?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Macy doesn't get
Hold
her
on.
stuff.
We'll just redo that.
Just outro it right now. It'll just be black screen.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll see you guys later.
Peace.
Make sure to subscribe, like, comment on the Underwater FlyZone podcast, and be sure to follow up for episode 2 of Girls Around the World. Caitlin and I. Woo!
Woo.
We're out.